I predict a Duke's victory.
What is up, Dolan? Episode 8, Crush Fantasy Football Podcast with your hosts, James and Dolan. I know there's a lot of you out there thinking, whoa, episode 8 already? What happened episode 6? What happened episode 7? Dolan doesn't pay for the premium hardware that is needed in this industry. And episode 6 might be long gone. Episode 7, I don't know, Dolan. What do you think? You think we're going to...
I think episode 6 is long gone. I think we've tried to recover that one. Maybe once our technical knowledge grows, we can find a way to recover it over time. Episode 7, we're not fully out on yet, but not looking super optimistic. So, yeah, I wouldn't say I'm the one who's necessarily not paying here. It might be my super strict landlord. It's TBD if it's hardware or connectivity issue, or maybe a mix of both. But, yeah, I had some frustrations with the last 2 attempted recordings. Hoping, fingers crossed, that episode 8 is going to be a good one here.
Dude, I think you put your Venmo on the bottom of the screen there and start crowdsourcing donations for some fiber or something to go through the ground.
Yeah, we'll have to get a little creative, but I think for now, things seem to be running smoothly with the 2 minutes into this recording or whatever it is we are.
Yeah, so let's wrap it up.
Hoping for the best.
I do. I say we wrap it up and post it like this. We got through one. You got to see the ball go through the hoop, right?
It's a good point. But I think we can do a little more. I think we got a little more.
There we go. Maybe I'm just trying to avoid the subject matter of this episode. All right. As always, we start the show with our Take Montezuma, also known as a Take Purge. We're trying to get our hot takes out of the way so we can give that hard-hitting sound analysis the rest of the show. Take Montezuma is sponsored by Soiree Season. So if you're in the market, if you're about to get married soon, please check out Soiree Season. Promo code Crush Fantasy Football. All right, Dolan, lead us off. How hot is this hot take?
I don't know. I don't think it's that hot. A lot of people have given me crap for this one over the years, but probably my hottest take yet, if I had to guess, is that boats are meant and designed purely for transportation, not for entertainment. I think it is absolutely crazy that people will just spend a bunch of money to go drive circles in a lake all day or something like that. And I get it if you're, say, island hopping somewhere and you're using a boat as a fun means of transportation to get around. That's a different story compared to just hey, let me go out on the water and drive in circles, do the exact same thing I would have done on land, but on a boat. To me, that's just absolutely crazy, and just an exorbitant waste of money. But I know I am the minority there. I know this is a hot take, but I needed to get that one off my chest because I think it's absolutely crazy the amount of money the boat industry pulls in because people just want to be on water.
Dude, it's like you live in the 1600s. It's like you're not getting scurvy and finding new lands, or the 1800s and you're shipping containers. Would you like a breeze? Do you know that the concept in nature, a breeze? This on land too. When it's
exactly,
it's in your
that's
face.
My point. You're only doing stuff that you do on land anyway.
You're doing stuff that you do on land, but being on water makes it so much exponentially better.
Nope.
It feels better. The sun
disagree.
feels better. Dude, there's a more consistent breeze. You're creating a breeze, right? It's objectively, breezes feel good. On land, you have to wait for the breeze to come. In the water, you're creating your own breeze. You're playing water sports. You're doing fun things. You're drinking beers.
I can drink beers on land.
Yeah, but they taste better on the water.
See, these are the arguments I get hit with every time, and I'm never sold.
But so when you go on boats, you're like, I wish we were on land.
I'm not I wish I was on land. My point is not that being on a boat is miserable. My point is I don't understand why people spend a lot of money just to be on a boat.
When people get rich, what the most common thing to do is just buy a huge boat.
Yeah, and everybody says that selling the boat is the best part about owning the boat.
Yeah, that's fair. Maybe owning a boat, that's not the same though. That's a different argument than being on the boat. Yes, the upkeep and the cost. Owning a boat, there's probably parts of it that suck. Being on a boat is objectively a really fun, great activity. It's different too. Don't you want variety in your life? It's like doing the same thing every day. So Today we're going on a boat. It's doing something. It's activity. It's not just walking on land.
Phone.
Dude, water feels good, right? Boat is one jump away from the water. It's
So is the beach.
you have to go to the beach. All right, I'm done. I think the three people that listen to this will all agree with me. I mean, everybody agrees with me. This is terrible. My hot take, way less hot than that. My football hot take, that is I think so. This recent multi-billion-dollar contract where NFL is kind of selling their TV assets to ESPN. I think the general consensus is ESPN is going to screw up Red Zone. Like Red Zone has the highest approval rating of any TV show, I think. And everyone just thinks ESPN is going to screw it up with ads or adding Stephen A. Smith or whatever. My hot take is even ESPN understands the great shows and will keep it the same and not mess it up. So that's my hot take. I think McAfee's a pretty good example of this. I think the Turner inside the NBA, they haven't done it yet, but I think that will be another example as they acquire a universally liked product, they'll keep it the same.
Yeah, I definitely don't disagree. Like, I don't think ESPN or Disney are foolish enough to get rid of Scott Hansen and something that is so loved and try and make their mark and do their own thing. I do think it's going to be ultimately a good thing. It might be something where the end consumer ends up having to pay more money because of it. But I think all those in-between things you reference are things that ESPN is going to be a hell of a lot better doing than the NFL network themselves. And so I do think that there's a really positive trend for the industry as a whole. And I think it's only a matter of time before ESPN decides their next acquisition is going to be the Crush Fantasy Football podcast. So good news for us.
All right. So in our 2-episode weekly cadence, what we do is kind of episode 1, we focus on a relevant fantasy football topic that we both want to talk about. Episode 2 is when we take a look at our Dynasty League and talk through what we're looking at, what we're interested in. The series we're doing right now is to kind of assess, as a consultant would, an individual team and deep dive that team. What's the strategy? What are the goals? And then maybe give some feedback from the other person. So today we are looking at Daddy James Dynasty roster. Anything to add before I start talking about my favorite topic?
Yeah, maybe just like a not safe for work warning. Like if you're around kids, just like they might be a little scared about what they're about to see.
All right. It's hard to give my roster overview without the big picture. So in the last year and a half of our league, basically what it's looked like is there's been 2 really good teams. I think objectively really good teams, 2 objectively really bad teams, right? So 2 teams that you're like are going to make the playoffs, probably the favorites to get the buys. 2 teams you're like something really drastic would have to happen for this team to even make the playoffs. Everybody else, the other 6 teams, are kind of in the middle. And that's the landscape my team is operating in, one of those middle teams. Last year, unfortunately, I was at the bottom of that tier. I was a better on paper team than an actual team, finished third to last. I upgraded pretty significantly this offseason, I think at least on paper. So my strategy, Dolan, is similar to yours, whether you believe it or not, is I want to be consistently good enough to make the playoffs every year and just hope kind of the ball bounces the right way or you catch fire for a couple weeks and get hot and win a championship. I also want to pair that with, so that's like a floor of, I want to be one of the top 6 teams, ideally one of the top 4 teams, so it's kind of easier to get in. But I also want to pair that with, I want the asset value of my team to increase year over year. And I tend to try to trade away guys before their value dips. And I think both of these things, sometimes I've done it well, and we can go through some examples, and sometimes it's to my detriment, where I'm thinking too much about asset value and not enough about winning. I'm going to stop there. That's how I think about it. Do you have any questions for me based on what I've said so far?
No questions, but I definitely agree. You got to focus a little more on the winning there, but
Man, this guy. All right. So There's kind of one other piece in this. I think the best of the best running backs, besides the running quarterbacks, are still the most valuable thing in fantasy football, and I tend to trend that way. So, I mean, we'll get to my running backs in a second, but I've done deals for Saquon and Christian McCaffrey in the past because I truly feel this. Like these are the true difference makers. Those five guys who get the 300 plus touches, who catch the ball, and who you can count on for 18 to 20 points a game. So first, we'll go through my position groups. We'll start with my quarterbacks. And reminder, we play two quarterbacks in Crush Cities. So I trot out the GOAT, the MVP, Patrick Mahomes, Brock Purdy. My depth piece is Trevor Lawrence, and I have JJ McCarthy on my taxi squad. Candidly, I think this is the position group on my team that I'm the least confident in. For me to be successful this year, I think Mahomes has to be closer to QB4 than QB10 like he has in these last 2 years. And one of those other three guys needs to get in the top 12. Not a lot of mobility with those four. I get it, but I'm hoping because I have four of them that I can get some either touchdown variants or JJ McCarthy will use his legs more than people are expecting. What do you think, Dolan?
I think so. And I'll maybe jump ahead here just because we're right on it. But I know later on we're going to talk about a couple of moves I would suggest making if I were owning your team. And I think tiering up at QB2 is actually something I just updated in our show notes, is really the number one thing that stands out to me. I think, like you said, yes, you do need a big Mahomes season to vault into the, true contending tier in the playoffs this year. But I also think an easy way to offset some of that risk or make things feel a little possible is if you somehow package together one of those other three QBs, either two of them, maybe even, or another depth piece on your roster, maybe some future picks. I think if you can just say, hey, I'm going to make a QB a true strength and upgrade one of those guys, they're never cheap, but there are ways to do it. I think that's a way to really solidify your team. If you happen to get one of those guys that's going to add that value long term, and all of a sudden you're looking at this like, wait a minute, Patrick Mahomes is my QB2, not my QB1. I think you're looking at a really different roster structure. And a much easier way to put up points. And I do think you have the depth in your quarterback room and elsewhere on your roster to be able to do that. Obviously, buying those guys is never easy, but I do think there are some short-term options where if you're just saying, hey, I want something for this year, you could maybe get someone a little cheaper. A guy that I always come back to is like Justin Fields. You throw Justin Fields on your roster, I think you got a pretty high ceiling at two quarterback positions, whereas right now it feels more like you're very high floor at a lot of two quarterback positions. So that's the one that, about the quarterback room in particular, really jumped out at me.
Yeah, and that's where, honestly, Justin Fields, where I'm like, dynasty asset value always is in the back of my head. Am I really going to give up Brock Purdy, who I think has a really a strong career ahead of him, for someone like Justin Fields is he'll probably help me this year. He might help me next year, but there's no long-term guarantee, right? The sweet spot would be the Justin Fields upside this year with some more of a long-term guarantee. And I'm not sure, minus the top four, which I don't think you're saying to trade it for those guys. I think you're saying somewhere in it's like the Bo Nix, the Burrow's probably too good for this conversation. Yeah, it's that next group. Maybe your guy, maybe even Kyler. But I mean, I don't feel that much better about Kyler than I do about Purdy, And so
interesting. I do for this year, but I see the point.
The other part of this is I tried to do that and it didn't work out just to take everybody back a little. I had Mahomes and Justin Herbert as my QBs last year, which obviously did not work out at all. For Justin Herbert as I have a top 5 quarterback with Mahomes and he's younger, and so I won't have to worry about this position. I'll plug and play a top 5 guy. And it just turned out between the Greg Roman offense, the weapons, that Herbert might not be that guy. So next is the running back. So this is by far the best positional group on my team. I tried out Bijan. How did you saw that clip? How he said it differently? Bijan Robinson, Ashton Jeanty, Devon Achane are my 3, and then a tiny bit of depth in Ramondre and a couple of dart throws with Taj Brook, and let's see, who else do I even have? Phil Maffa, Kendre Miller, like real dart throws. So the way I view this position is obviously this is the cream of the crop of my roster. I'm going to be really good if those three guys stay healthy. Ashton Genty is going to be awesome. I think it's going to be awesome right away. The only question I have for myself, and maybe you can shed some light in here, if the Dolphins fall apart like we think they might be, or the NFL thinks they might be, and Mike McDaniel is on those first coach fire lists, is this the right time to get off of HM? That's the only slight hesitation I have with this group. But I'll stop there. You can provide some more color.
Yeah, I think I'll start with the question because it's an easy one. And I think for you in particular, the answer is no. If you were a rebuilding team or if your roster construction was a little different, I think that's very much in play. But because you're pushing for a championship, because you don't have your first round pick and, deciding 6 weeks in, hey, I'm actually going to play for a high draft pick is off the table. I think you just take the guy who has an astronomical ceiling and see what you got with him. Now, if someone comes out and gives you a fantastic offer, like they give you, an RB2 worthy guy that you can still plug in and throw, first and a second round pick on top of it, then you start to react. But I wouldn't be actively shopping HN, as I think what the root of the question is. And then as far as just your running back room in general, this is definitely a bit of a more backwards build from what a lot of people do, is where they say, hey, I'm going to build around those long-term positions first and plug in the running back last. And I think you found a lot of opportunity there in that. And I think it does make your roster construction so much easier because running back, aside from maybe tight end, is the hardest position to fill in fantasy football. So being able to look at, even if HM does go in the wrong direction, I think you'll feel pretty confident that for at least the next 3 to 5 years between Bijan and Genty, you're not going to be in a position where you're like, holy crap, how do I find an RB2 with how scarce the position is?
Yep. So next we go to wide receivers. So my best wide receiver is just acquired this offseason is BTJ, Brian Thomas Jr. With him, I have a good bit of depth. So Garrett Wilson, DK Metcalf, DJ Moore, Chris Olave would be kind of the next tier. And then the depth pieces are Rashid Shaheed. I don't even know if I want to say Romeo Dobbs, Elijah Moore, Deontay Johnson. Those are more just roster guys. And then I accidentally I don't know if lucked into is the right word, but I didn't set out to acquire 3 of the top, call it 5 to 7 rookie receivers this year. It just sort of happened with how the draft fell. But I have Ted McMillan, Luther Burden, and Matthew Golden. The way I'm looking at this receiver group is, since the running backs are so good, I only need to play 3 of them. One of them is BTJ. So I basically need between DJ Moore, DK Metcalf, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, ideally one of them as a top 12 guy if I'm going to be good, but 2 of them to be top 20 guys. And then I think the rookies are just kind of, at least this year, if one hits, it would be great. Like if I have the opportunity to take Ted off taxi, it would be great, but it's not something I'm counting on. I'll let you jump in and we can talk about this group because I think this is one of the more interesting groups.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with your sentiment. I think it all makes sense. And when I look at your receiver room, I think 2 things jump out at me. I think one, a lot of those non-BTJ level guys are chips that you can use to make some of those quarterback moves that we touched about when reviewing that section of your roster. So are those some of the guys that you can, package with the Purdy to get into that upper tier of quarterback? There'd need to be some other assets included. Is something like flipping a Chris Olave in exchange for, maybe a Justin Fields on his own? Is that a possibility? And then the other thing that jumps out, and this was in my pre-show notes as well, is I do think you got to get rid of some of those bottom of the barrel wide receivers that are, as you just put it, taking up roster spots, and just get some more youth in there. Like, I think we're at the point, because you have depth at receiver, because you're stable at running back, you're not going to be aching for starting spots too much. And, the Deontay Johnsons, who is it, Josh Palmer type guys that you have on your roster, or Elijah Moore, not Josh Palmer, other Bills receiver, even to a lesser extent, Romeo Dobbs, Shaheed. I think those are guys that you're just like, okay, it feels tough cutting them because they have some value, but I would just kind of say, hey, I'm ready to turn over this portion of my roster and chase some upside, get some rookies, probably more so notably at the running back position. is where I would focus. And, I know you have the big three there, but if you're like, okay, well, let me put some more chips in this basket just because I think there's possibility to get some more of that depth that you might need at certain points of the season, I'd go for a little more upside there and just, kind of bite the bullet on getting rid of some of those guys. Obviously, if you can trade them and get anything in return, awesome. But at least of all the four names that I mentioned, I would be pretty confident just saying, you know what, I'm going to move on from these guys and take my chances with an upgrade on the waiver wire for the sake of just shaping out your roster in a way that I think could provide you with a little more upside.
Yeah, I hear you. I don't think they're going to be on my roster for long because eventually we're going to have to I'm going to take Genty off and I'm going to have to get a kicker. So I'm essentially 2 spots are opening. And then it's going to be the question is these rookies I just picked up, someone like Phil Maffa versus Deontay Johnson. What I think you're saying is Phil Maffa, like throw the dart at Phil Maffa. We know what Deontay Johnson is, right?
Yep.
Or Keandre Lambert-Smith. Throw the dart at the rookie to see if you can get the upside as opposed. We know what Elijah Moore is. He's given us 3 years. And so you're right. Those are the questions I'm going to essentially thinking about right now. I'm with you. Okay, let's go to my tight end room because I know you're not a huge fan. So basically, I got Hawkinson this offseason. So Hawkinson's projected to be my starter. Then I got Evan Ingram as kind of, let's call it a 1B, probably I don't know. If there's a chance Evan Ingram looks better than Hawkinson, so it's just 2 guys for a possible starter, and then Harold Fannin is my depth piece. It's just a dart throw, very athletic tight end, was awesome at Bowling Green. So I'm going through your rookie motto there and throwing a dart. I know you have some thoughts. I know you don't like Hawkinson.
Yeah, and obviously you're, putting it on a tee for me here, but I think that the biggest, then this was one of the big 3 things I jotted down coming in, is I think tearing down from Hawkinson is a great way to extract some value. You are a little lighter on future draft capital, so, I think moving off of him is a way to help replenish that a little bit, give you some more flexibility. Because exactly what you said, I would not be one bit surprised if we look back in the end of the season and you're like, I actually started Evan Ingram more than I started TJ Hawkinson. I think in a vacuum, it's more likely Hawkinson's going to be the go-to guy for you. And he's ranked accordingly, but you can also get the price that comes with that accordingly for what I think would be a very, very, very small drop off in actual production. I don't think the Vikings are going to throw the ball a ton. I think maybe this is a situation where because Addison's probably going to get suspended, you let Hawkinson have a couple really good weeks to start the season, and then you're like, all right, thank you for your service. I'm going to go try and cash in. Probably can't get a first round pick, but maybe it's something where you get close to a first in value, or you give up Hawkinson in a second and can somehow squeeze a first out of some team that's really tight end needy and trying to make a push. That's probably a touch lofty, but even if it's something like, okay, I'm moving from Hawkinson to, whoever you think the tight end 15 is, you get someone a little younger and you get some assets on top of that. He's the exact type of guy where I'm like, okay, he's just below that group of elite tight ends that are going to give you that positional advantage every week. And you're kind of paying a lot for perceived stability that may or may not be there. So that's one of the big moves I would consider with you is how you could extract some value moving off of entirely Hawkinson or tearing down.
I know. I think honestly the whole reason I have him right now is because last year my tight end room was so bad, the combination of essentially Pitts and then an injured Evan Ingram, that I was just tired of scoring 4 points a week, sometimes 0, instead of 8 to 10 points a week. That I'm like, let's hope the other 3 positions will carry me and just don't lose weeks because of the tight end. What was my thinking to even go get him? The tear down is interesting because the ideal way to do it is to tear down on paper, I think, and get somebody who is just going to be as good as Hawkinson in a year or 2. And the 2 I came up with, I'm curious your thoughts, Tucker Kraft and Kincaid.
Yep. I like both
those. Are the 2 but those are the 2 I was like, but then again, I don't know. Do you think those people, I guess it depends how their season's going and how those guys are performing, right? I'd imagine there's not going to be a second thrown on top of either of those guys, maybe a couple in early third. I'm taking the stability, at least to start the year, to your point.
That's
and
fair.
If both of them are good, Evan Ingram to a tight end needy team is with his age is something like that's right out of my playbook. I would love to be able to sell Evan Ingram for a second. All right, big picture. What do you think? Where do you think I finish?
Yeah.
10-team league.
I'll also say, just last thought on Hawkinson too. Like, he, I think, is the perfect type of guy, or Ingram, like you said, if they both start off well, where it's like, hey, this is adding to that package of helping me tier up at QB2. If all of a sudden you can pull together a package where it's like Purdy or Lawrence or maybe even McCarthy, maybe you can even do a McCarthy Hawkinson stack, throw in one of those receivers who you like but don't love. All of a sudden, that's a pretty appealing offer for someone to get one of those better QBs. To your question itself, as far as where you finish, I think you are a playoff team this year. I think you know, barring drastic injuries, you're going to finish inside the top 6, but likely not a team contending too aggressively for a bye, you know, one of those top 2 seeds. But I do think your team's trending in the right direction, and there's a lot of stability and depth, both with, you know, just the guys you have on your bench as well as like some handcuffs. You're not going to be a team who drops a bunch of crappy games mid-season because you can't field a respectable roster because you're bitten by buys and injuries accumulating all on top of one another. You'll be able to survive the down part of the season, and I think, you know, when everybody's at full strength, you're going to be able to go punch for punch with just about anybody, even if there are certain opponents where you'll be an underdog.
Yeah, I'm a very interested. So the other interesting part of this is the schedule. So I miss the on paper 3 best teams. So I don't play any of those 3 twice, but I don't play Taco twice either. Yeah, it's a better schedule than last year. I think my team's better than last year, but the quarterbacks really do worry me. If this is actually it for Mahomes as like a top 5 guy, like at least fantasy guy, not obviously not real football, then I think there's a lot to be desired with that QB.
One thing that I saw this morning that's actually now coming to my head that I think is funny, I should have made the podcast connection with this because I would have actually like jotted down the numbers, but it showed Tom Brady's passing yards in his 20s, 30s, and 40s. And granted, the 40s and or like all of his stats, not just passing yards, but it was like, granted, the 20s and 40s didn't give you a full 10 years, but he threw like 40,000 yards or something absurd like that in his any season where he was in his 30s. And it was like, okay, this is a reminder that, Mahomes can still just be an absolute dog for the next 10 years. And so I think the whole, he's not a top 5 dynasty quarterback or whatever stuff has gotten out of hand. Like, I don't think there's a huge difference between him and Burrow. Like, everybody's super excited about Burrow right now, but like 3 years from now, if you tell me Mahomes is more valuable, like, I'm blank. I guess age is a factor, and that Bengals defense might be terrible for the rest of time, but I digress.
Dude, I'm watching, I'll digress. I'm watching Quarterback right now, right? The Netflix show. And that defense, it's insane what those 2 dudes had to pull out of their ass because of how bad that defense was last year. And if they're going to be, I had a redraft where I had the choice. I essentially had the first overall choice of which pick I wanted. And I went 3 over just taking the number 1 overall pick. And watching Jamar Chase on this quarterback show, I'm regretting it by the day.
Yeah.
The amount of defense they play. Dude, we made it. Your tech got you through. Man, it's a shame we don't have 2 to.
So we'll figure out what the common themes are to make it work. But yeah, glad we got through this one. Good chopping it up. Best of luck to this team. I think there are some routes to improvement, but that doesn't mean it's not a good one already.
When do we play? Week 3? Week 4? 3.
It's 2 or 3. It's early.
You'll be in Asia?
It's early.
Will you be in Asia?
Yeah. I'm flying to Asia after week 1.
All right, man. Well, I hope I give you 2 losses this year, and I hope I get a first-round bye.
Hey, so hope is dangerous. Hope is dangerous.
All right, my friend. Let's go. We got one in the book.
Good chat.
Timmy Trumpet our way
Love
out.
It. Correct.